Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Dham Good podcast.
Your favorite Hare Krishna lifestyle podcast. We are your hosts. I'm PREMA'S.
And I'm Narayan.
And we're joined here with the prestigious,
our very own
Bhaktimarga Swami.
Bhaktimarga Swami, Haribol! Our first celebrity. We're very happy to have Maharaj here. He's agreed very kindly to give us to allow us to do an interview with him today. And here we go. Let's get started and go for it.
So, for those of you that don't know, Bhaktimarga Maharaj is known as the walking monk. He's walked across America, Canada 4 times, Trinidad, Israel, Guyana. India yet?
No.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay.
No plans for India?
No plans.
Okay.
No plans.
They have to remove a little bit of dust. Might consider it.
I hear you.
And he's also known as being the beloved Maharaj of the youth who is involved a lot with drama and the arts here. So we're in the presence of somebody who has been everywhere and also has a very rich experience with our culture and dramas, theater, the music, arts, poetry. We've got Maharaj on every category of art. So thank you so much for being here, Maharaj.
I'm happy to be here.
Really happy.
Yeah.
So what we do is, we're going to just introduce Maharaj to our first segment, is our getting to know you question. And I believe Prema has prepared a question for us.
Yes, so I was, just to kind of break the ice, get to know each other, I was wondering what's a common misunderstanding people have about you?
Ooh.
About myself personally?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It can be anything.
Well, if you're talking about in the context of the movement, I might be perceived as one of those stiff, kind of assertive, perhaps, Swamijis or gurus, and I don't
Really?
like...
By whom? You're the coolest Maharaj ever. What?
No, but I mean, if you're not introduced to someone, I mean, that might be the perception, right? But I just like to be kind of like equal status. Like, I have a problem with people, they see you a mile away, they're on a motorbike, they stop the motorbike, they get off, they lie down doing dandavats in the mud, and turn off the engine, by the way. Well, I don't know if I go that far. And then to show, reverence, and I think it's going a little too far, In fact, I just told a guy yesterday, I said, Prabhupada, don't go any further. Don't go down any further. You stay up, you just bow down like this, and that's fine with me, okay? Because you have to understand, from my perspective, if everyone does this, I have to stop and go, hello, stop. Haribol, thank you very much, And I can't move anywhere,
This is such a relief. Because I felt like the worst sinner, see a sannyasi and not do dandavats every time, especially during Gorpanim. There's like a sannyasi in every corner.
All the way home.
Yeah. Okay. What about people who just pass by you and just like zoom past you on a motorbike?
Well, personally, I have an issue about motorbikes. I don't know if that's the topic.
We've had our we'll get
well,
we'll get there.
Just a quick comment on it. I believe, of course, it's practical for some people, but so are bicycles practical. Just add a little extra device to it. I just think it adds to the rajas, the passion, and even tamas if there's an accident involved. I don't think it really does well for our image out there for outsiders. They just see we're a bunch of hot rodders. And it's better if it's just quiet, easy going, go at a pace that's reasonable and that's safe like that. Especially you have children coming around and animals and so on like that. So I'm very against it. And my idea of a retreat place is not hearing engines roaring all over the place. Just not my thing at all.
It's the sounds of nature and kind of like peaceful.
keep it like that. Even automobiles are quieter, but when it comes to some of the motor scooters. It's
there was
very
one
agitating.
motorbike. I ride a motorbike, but there is a motorbike that it's been going up and down lately that has the loudest engine. And I could hear it from here all the way at the Tarampur crossing. And that's when I was like, okay, maybe motorbikes need to kind of chill out a little bit, you know. Yes, yes.
Well, it's the safety factor, it's the noise factor, it's everything. The kind of guna that you don't want to have in the place. And, you know, if it's for speed, generally people who go with speed, they usually are the ones that waste a lot of time once they get to their end. So maybe it's better to be synchronized with the pulse of the place, which should be, let's say, quiet, sattva gun should pervade.
I agree.
And then it's just more conducive for cultivating your spiritual life.
I agree.
I don't know, we're going to talk about motorcycles.
I like it. It's all about you today, Maharaj, whatever you like. Yeah.
Did you ever have a personal experience with a motorcycle, or was it?
Well, just going by really fast.
Yeah.
And but I have heard from others, like my colleagues, two sannyasi godbrothers. One guy whipped around a corner. It startled one of the sannyasis who fell over, and the guy on the motorbike, he just passed right by, he didn't even stop. So it's very inconsiderate. So you have those people who are overly reverential, and then you have those who are, let's say, very aloof.
Yeah.
You know?
Aloof.
And I think it does create that mood. I don't care what anybody says. You know, it only takes a child to run across very quickly, and for an accident to happen, and a death, I hate to say, for them, everyone to seriously think, well, maybe we should have some controls here.
Yes. And I believe, are you part of the plans? I mean, there is a movement growing on all levels of management to make Mayapur that sort of bicycle green zone, make it more like bring it back to nature.
Well, I've been a little bit vocal. I mean, I've talked to some of the managers who are involved in that department, and that was some time ago. But I have my opinion on it. And I'm also like an outsider coming in, and I come here, and we all participate in raising funds for Prabhupada's projects, you know. And so we like to have a say in the matter, you know, and you know, and not only that, but just, you know, the presence of plastic, and you know, Mayapur is pretty good, but you know, maybe we're not doing enough about environmental issues. You know?
You heard that. Yeah, you heard that. You heard it here first.
Well, I was really appalled to see at the Ganga the last time I went to swim there. It was tourists that came, you know, pilgrims that came, and they just lathered up like you never saw anything before, right in the Ganga. And I tried to convey to them, like, of course there's a language barrier, says no good. They didn't really understand what couldn't really comprehend. Yeah. But I think it's part of our mission, not only to worship, but to protect, you know. It's not good enough puja. Puja isn't everything. If you say, I just do puja, I'm a good boy now. No, that's really maybe where it starts, but where do you end up? The whole place deserves puja.
Yes.
Right.
You know?
Well, cleanliness is part of the puja.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And nowadays, the kind of people that are drawn to Krishna consciousness are people of the New Age category. They're, let's say, they're very sattvic. They're part of the yoga culture, you can say. And they'll look at us and they think, okay, we're incredible preachers, but do we practice what we preach? Sure. If they see that, you know, we create a lot of refuse that could be controlled, and you know, I think we have to look at everything. Should the bins be made of plastic? Like in the West, whenever they do in a new developed area, or even when they have a chance, like an old downtown section, to revamp the park, they'll take all materials that are biodegradable. They won't use plastic. In fact, nowadays, children's playgrounds that are made of plastic, let's say dump yards, they won't even accept it anymore. It's unacceptable. So what do you do with it? You know. So it's a hazard. It's a hazard, and you know, we have to think generations before. We have to be sattvic means when you make a decision, you think about several generations before.
That takes the kind of patience they don't have these days, right?
Yeah. What's good for me now?
Yeah.
Well, what about next year? What about 5 years from now? Because now we live in a culture where every 5 years the culture changes, moves so fast. But like we can take some inspiration from our indigenous peoples, and how they were really good with the environment.
Self-sufficient, self-sustainable. It's what Prabhupada wanted for us.
Sure.
So that we don't have to, not only can we make the place greener, we don't have to depend on outside elements.
We have to be really careful about how we connect with the Industrial Revolution, and maybe it's good to adapt some practices from Industrial Revolution times. Definitely we have to look at this deeply.
We need another industrial revolution, but against the industry, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
As an outsider, that's the way I see it. That I would just like to see a very pure, clean environment where there isn't disturbing noises. Like say if you hear sirens or the regular thing in India, the high-pitched Tata truck sounds, the screeching noise.
How do you balance that with the growth of Mayapur? Because it's getting so big. How do you control that noise? Or at least what are your thoughts on controlling the noise that comes with...
Well, you have to have...
Just wanted to check on that side.
Yeah, policies have to be in place. Policing,
Policing.
Policies have to be enforced,
Yes.
And people need to maybe be penalized if the
I
noises
agree.
are too much. Or
I agree. I completely
they're going
agree.
at a high speed,
Yep.
Like pre-COVID, I was told by Hare Prabhu that there was a child, in fact, that was killed, in the local area by a motorcycle. Died. So we don't want that to happen.
No. Yeah, penalization works. I mean, I remember in the UK, we had to separate our rubbish, our waste. And if you don't separate it the right way, you get fined a certain amount. And that keeps you sharp, it keeps your nose clean. You drive too fast, you get a ticket, or you're being too loud, you get a citation. There's something, I don't think just pure goodwill works anymore.
Well, I think those are the kinds of things that I look at because I came from a Dutch background,
Oh, really?
Yeah. My parents came to Canada after the war, and that's where I was born in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And so, they take pride in keeping the house clean.
Yes.
We were raised on a farm, so everything was just neat. Gardening and everything just looked just right,
That's so cool. I never knew that about you.
Even though there wasn't any, we're not fabulously rich, but you work within your means and you make everything neat and tidy,
Yes.
And then you feel safe.
True.
True. And where there's colors, and it's what I do like about Mayapur, the wealth of flowers that are everywhere, because it's been known through studies that, like even cities where they plant a lot of trees, there's a lot of flowers everywhere, it brings down the tendency towards crime.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if I may just share, I remember when I was in Korea, I had this same experience that when things are clean, obviously I saw it from a different way. I was in Korea for a while with my father, and every evening, just because I had nothing to do in the house and my parents were out and in, I would go for walks at around 10 at 11 o'clock at night. It's an outrageous time to go for a walk up the main central hill, which was located in the center of the city. And I never once felt fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, how is this possible? If I were to do this in Delhi, I'd be mugged, stabbed, and then within 2 minutes of leaving the house.
Yeah.
And I just realized it was the culture of cleanliness,
Mm-hmm.
the culture of people getting paid well enough that they didn't have to resort to crime.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just clean, it was nature. And I like what you said about the flowers.
Well, you look at we're students of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And the three guna, the three modes of material nature, are sprinkled out throughout the entire 18 chapters. Mm-hmm. So it means we have to give some attention to it, So what kind of environment do you want? Do you want it to be rajasic, which is full of passion and where there's not much foresight or insight? And then, or do you want it to be very tamasic, where you just don't care, you trash everything? Or do you, it's those places that you don't feel safe in those environments. But really what we want is sattva gun, which stimulates, provokes thought,
Peace.
It's thought provoking.
Yes.
And that kind of an environment. And I'm sure that's exactly what Prabhupada had in mind. You read from the pages of the Bhagavatam, all the beautiful pages that Prabhupada's given us, about the spiritual realm and how it was, and how Dwarka was, like, just to give an example, how everything had its place. And I think that's just what I think Mayapur attempts to do, But once you step out of it, it's another world.
Yes, yes, quite.
And, do we really want to say we're Indian culture? And if it is, then you want to disassociate or distance yourself from what that is. Fast cars, road rage, dust everywhere, dirt everywhere. I hate to say, I hope nobody gets offended, but, is that what we really want,
No.
So what is it that you want, Even the kind of clothes that devotees wear, it's pretty sattvic. It's, it looks elegant and it looks comfortable, and generally I've seen devotees are clean in their attire, and that's beautiful,
It's true,
You don't
and
see that in
colorful
most
too.
places.
Yeah.
There's a lot of color, and I think we just have to show that consistency throughout, the kind of music that we portray. Like Prabhupada brought in those Shanai players, those professionals,
I love that.
back in the mid-70s. Why? To create an environment that is meditative and which encourages introspection.
What do you say? Oh man, you've just touched. I probably shouldn't do that on the mic. You're gonna hear that.
Everybody listening, I was like,
Oops. Sorry, guys. This touched a bone with me. The Shanai. I remember growing up as a kid here in Mayapur, and every morning and every evening they had the special Shanai that they composed for Srila Prabhupada, and now that's been stopped. That's no longer in Mayapur. You could hear it all the time. It was
Is the reason for that?
Well, apparently some Matajis had come forward saying it disturbs their baby sleeping, and it's too disturbing, and that the temple should do away with it.
Well, you can play a little softer or play a little bit later.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Someone said, it's not good for babies. I said, what? Your baby needs help. Like, what? No. Like it was a beautiful, like you said, a meditative environment. To have the Shanai coming from the Samadhi, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Wonderful time to chant if you're awake at that time, which I haven't been in quite a while. But
some of the kirtans tend to be kind of on the rajasic side, thumping and a little bit maybe too fast paced and not necessarily meditative. So you can make an argument against that also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were Prabhupada's kirtans ever like big thumpers? Like, because I've heard like Vishnu Jan Maharaj, he's a personal favorite of mine. He had very uplifting bhajans. I never found it personally rajasic, but more like enthusiastic.
Right. It was very innocent, very sweet, and anybody could follow the tune. So
yes.
It was something that was inclusive as opposed to exclusive.
Yes.
So, I guess we've just jumped onto the topic of kirtan.
Again,
we
have some questions we will get to soon. We do have questions for you, but
kirtans
please go
can
for
be
it.
sattvic or rajasic or tamasic.
Okay.
There are some kirtans that sound like I'm at a funeral.
Really? Yeah.
And then there are some that are just very, very, sattvic and, very uplifting. And then there are those that are just a lot of passion, like everyone had a few gulab jamuns before. They're all on hot sugar, So it's good to be selective. There's a place for everything,
Really?
Even when it comes to like mourning or grieving, there might be a tune or a song that would enhance that kind of feeling, feeling of loss.
Like Gianni Lo,
Yeah. I think that's natural. Yeah.
Okay. How do we set a standard for, like so many people argue. It's like, no, this kirtan, this Prabhu, this Maharaji is wonderful. And somebody else will say, no, that's not right, the zone.
Well, Prabhupada actually encouraged unity in diversity.
Okay.
And it was 50 years ago that Prabhupada sent a letter to the leaders saying, come together, I want you to come to Mayapur every year and discuss how to implement, how to use unity and diversity. So there's inclusiveness in that, not exclusivity. It's not like I have to do, everything has to be the way Indra did it, you know?
Yes.
Although we love him and
Yes.
we love his style, he encouraged so many people. There's not just one way to do things, you know? And so if we really take a hard look at that mandate by Prabhupada and figure out how it can be a little more exclusive, inclusive as opposed to what happens sometimes, then I think you'll have a well-rounded kind of community culture that everyone will want to embrace and be part of, right?
I agree.
If it's just one way, then
I had really gotten so much inspiration from you for 1 year. I believe you still do this, but I remember at one point, it was a few Gorpunims back, and you had come to lead a kirtan for Kirtan Mela. And I, really being attracted to your whole personality and vibration, I wanted to go for that. And I remember you went into the hall and you told everyone, get up. Do you still do that? Is that the...
We did it just the other day.
Yes.
We asked everyone to stand up.
It was lovely. Like, you know, it's like, let's be active in our kirtan, you know, everyone get up. And then everyone was like a little bit shocked. They're like, what? What you told? You're like, come on, get up now. And it was good. You did a whole kirtan and it was great. And everyone was moving, you know, the Holy Spirit was, you know, yes.
But we were trying to be like Chaitanya in that regard, that he was inclusive. Let's everyone use everything, every part of your being. It's not just the voice. It's not just sitting down and...
I was going to say a 30-second alap.
Oh my God, I can't stand the alaps. Oh my God, they kill me.
Prabhupada was opposed to, you know, howling, which just sometimes goes on. And he wanted something people could follow. And if you look at all images of the Panchatattva, it was all about movement, off your feet like that.
Yes.
Instead of the sit down. In some ways, the harmonium has been a culprit.
Okay.
Because then you sit down and there's a lot of attention given to that person who usually leads and plays. And it's really more about everyone participating. And in the kirtan, the dance is like the icing on the cake, or the cherry on top of the icing on the cake. It completes the kirtan. You've only gotten to a certain level if it's just boom, boom, boom.
It's true.
Shaking the heads and people going back and forth, you know. And yes, since we're on the topic, I was talking to one of the professional dancers that I work with, Paramakarna, from South America. They said, why don't you come up with something like, when we sing a bhajan, we can all stand up and we can almost tai chi it or qigong it out, you know. Like the words, the clouds, you know, the spiritual master being like the clouds, and you know, that kind of thing, and then dance it out. And a whole group of people do that together. Like to have a kirtan or a bhajan on that level would be such a nice implementation.
A group experience. It's always fun when they do the conga line.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a bit basic, but you know.
No, but you know what we need to do? We need to have something for seniors. Because when you come to something like Kirtan Mela, it's a young person's thing.
Oh,
you just got a bunch of older folks, you know, sitting in the back, you know. But we can learn a lot from the Orient, where it's generally the older folks that go into a park and they do this beautiful movement of Tai Chi, you know.
Yes.
And why not do it, you know, maybe singing it along while you're moving, you know.
Yes.
And it should be something we could, you know, introduce that gives us the senior folks something to do.
I'm down for one of those.
And it's very septic and something to look forward to. You know?
Yeah, because right now is the wild, wild west.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, it could be nice, it could be controlled.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, once in a while, I do look at a little bit of the media, like what are people seeing nowadays? They do see images of kirtan. It's all
Yeah.
you know, it's not nothing to draw you in on a sweet level. Takes you in. Again, it looks a little bit rajasic again, you know.
I like that. The dance completes the kirtan. You just gotta move it all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Just keeping a note on time here. Should we move on to personal questions?
We should.
I'm really excited to get to know Maharaj. So would you like to start us off, Premarupa?
Yeah. See, the time goes by quick. We're at 26 minutes right now.
Oh, really? We're halfway.
Yeah.
What?
I told you.
What?
Time goes by quick.
The time goes by quick. Okay.
So I was just curious, actually, about like how you started in Krishna consciousness.
Okay.
I don't think anybody really.
I don't know that one.
that I've ever heard that story.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in southwestern Ontario in a farming community, and people were more or less church going. It was kind of basically a French Canadian area, you know, Catholic,
pious,
pious, you know, and there were Protestant communities as well. It was the same red bricks, you know. The Anglican Church had red bricks. The church across the street was Catholic. It was the same bricks. What's the difference here? Same Jesus. And so I was always impressed. I always believed in a God, you know. And I finished writing a book called The Saffron Path.
Yes.
And it's a record of my walking experiences. It tells a little bit about what it was like when I grew up. And it was a very... I walked to school 1 mile every day, 1 mile there in Mona, along a meandering road that was edged along the Thames River in
Thames River?
Thames River in southwestern Ontario.
Oh.
And I always thought there were two people that were kind of mostly on my mind. It was God, and it was also Chief Tecumseh, because it was called the Tecumseh Road.
Okay.
Because he was quite an amazing superhero for his people, and he died on the battlefield. There was a battle in 1812 between the British and the Americans, and Canada wasn't yet established, didn't have independence yet, so basically it was an English colony, and the local native folks fought on behalf of the British. So Chief Tecumseh fought for his people, because it was he was losing ground, because so many things that already preceded what happened in the late 1700s.
Yes.
And the native folks were outnumbered. But anyways, he got shot by an American militia by the Thames River. And so he's kind of memorialized, in that part of
the river, I see.
Country, yeah. And so he's always a hero. So I always understood that you have to look up to somebody, Has to be like that. I always grew up with those kind of thoughts. So there was a time when, before I went to school, I go to church, and I did that on my own. I went to Mass. And I just did that of my own volition, because I really liked the peace of it all. I felt comfort and security.
There's something nice about a church. Like
it is actually.
Away from all of the other stuff. Yeah. Of course, we hear terrible things about institutions, but you also have to take the good part of it as well. A lot of people's lives were saved. It's not that it was all bad.
Yes.
So when I entered my high school years, I kind of stepped a little bit away from the beliefs that I was raised in, and I just went around to do my own little search, And in the 60s, which was a very special time, a time of thought, a time of the counterculture, and you question things.
Was there something that triggered that in particular that made you say, maybe I don't want to be
Well, you want to be loved. So you want to be loved, especially as a adolescent. So to be loved, you have to do what everyone else is doing, right? So for us, that meant to go to some parties. It also meant look at the Beatles, And the Beatles, they went through their own transformation. They went to India. Yeah. And when they came back, they had their dopey years, but they were also, their music was changing. It was maturing.
Yes.
And they were musical geniuses,
Really?
Writing, and they still are today. Like they're top of the line. They had variation. So Especially George, he brought in the sitar into their music, and his lyrics were becoming full and rich with Vedic truths and beliefs, and Krishna was a major centerfold there. And so I started to look at that, and that's when I started to ponder, what is this thing about India, which deliberately, when you were young, in school, you just, India, flip it over, 2 pages, China, same thing, but everything was about the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. That's what we studied.
Very
limiting, So, what happened to everybody else, the cultures that have been around for thousands of years? So I was very curious about Indian culture, I was just a curious cat about everything,
That's the best.
And where we were raised, it was near the famous Uncle Tom's cabin.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that.
And that is, we're talking about a reverend who was born into slavery from the Deep South. And many people came up to Canada for safety. And they established themselves with the reverend who near Dresden, Ontario, established a whole agrarian culture. So people came up to Uncle Tom, who was a reverend, and they saw that this is my place of refuge. And unfortunately, some slave catchers did come and take some people back.
Oh no.
Sad story. But I always felt, for the African folks, I always felt an attraction for them. And I was always curious about people outside my own, let's say, situation.
Wonderful.
And I was not limiting. I wanted to know about everything,
Yeah.
Every community had something to offer.
Yeah.
Whether it was Ukrainians or the Highlanders with their bagpipes.
Oh my God, they're beautiful, really.
Everybody has something to give,
Yeah.
And it couldn't just be limited to where we were at. And what I got from the Dutch folks, they're all immigrants that came. Canada more or less liberated Holland during the Nazi time.
Really?
And so they felt an indebtedness, and let's go to Canada, land of opportunity, lots of good soil for growing. And they thought, well, let's try it out there. And so it was a large band of, Dutch Canadians that would get together. And generally, I've seen that they're hardworking, honest kind of people.
Yes.
And again, they're into everything being nice, looking good, and
Do you speak any Dutch?
Ik ken een klein beetje Hollands verstaan.
Oh, flexing his muscle.
And that's about it.
What does that mean?
I can understand a little bit.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
How do your parents feel about you becoming a devotee?
Well, when I first got involved, my dad was especially revving up. He was ready for almost anything because it was that era of change, radical change, the style of music they were listening to. They had problems with us playing Led Zeppelin, things like that, and that was out of their range, It wasn't country western if it wasn't Johnny Cash. So then, they had a little problem with it. I said, well, just that I'd say it's an old tradition from India, and then of course responsible India. That's where everyone's starving to death, and they're snake charmers, and they allow the cows to eat all the food, and the people go hungry. That's the kind of propaganda that came through. And to some degree, it was true. India was left, by the Europeans in a bad state.
Horrible.
The history is not pretty.
Yeah.
And like all history, it's ugly. It's not nice.
Yeah.
So we should learn from history. Let's not repeat what we did.
Yes.
I have my own feelings about back in the 70s, after I joined the movement, about how women were treated. And most of my school teachers were mostly women, females. And I'm not a feminist. And And but I do believe in justice and respect. And I feel comfortable with guys running the show, you know. But I always thought it was nice to have women running the house and the relationships. And that's almost not an issue anymore. It's gone. It's out of the picture, out of the culture. To reintroduce those things, that's a little hard. So where I was going with this is that, so in the 70s we went through a real rough period of that gender issue. And Prabhupada heard about it, and he was listening to the temple presidents who were complaining about, you know, the sort of anti-women sentiments, anti-men who were grihastas, anti-brahmacharis who also sided with the temple presidents, you know. There was a split happening. It was a fratricidal war, as Prabhupada said.
Mm-hmm.
But he settled the matter because he listened to both sides. He listened to what the temple presidents who were struggling with this, what they were saying, and he settled the matter and took care of it. So it just becomes a little odd to me that this can come around again a few decades later and come back full circle and says, well, let's settle it, guys.
How did he settle it?
Do something. Well, he just, he said he said, this is wrong. It's a war. We don't want war. And for the perpetrators or the instigators of this kind of sentiment, he said, okay, well, we'll put you in a place where, which will be very challenging for you. You know, maybe it would have appeared at that time to be a little bit like exile, or, but it was definitely sending a strong message. We do not approve of trying to divide the society, divide our community.
Yes, unity and diversity.
And, you know, on that issue, you know, I was there. I mean, I live in Toronto. I live in the building and the very room where Prabhupada mentioned to Professor Joseph T. O'Connell when he asked the question, are there any female gurus? And he said, a few, not many. Yes, there are some. So I think ISKCON could do well, and especially we're out in the West, and since you know we're bringing sort of up a hot topic, it doesn't need to be hot. Why isn't hot?
Yeah.
You know, Prabhupada said it's okay, you know, and in the context of where we were in the West, and so what is the problem? It would really be good. It says makes a lot of says a lot about how we look at our people and treat our people. You know?
Wonderful.
So the end result of going extremist on anything is not abiding by the unity and diversity principle that Prabhupada wanted us to adapt to.
Yes. Well said. Well said.
Yeah. So again, I just want to say, I am a traditionalist. I like the structure.
I support that. Me too.
And I was, you know, I was raised where Dad did the work, and he was the protector, the builder. Mom was the nurturer, and it was a nice, beautiful, complementary kind of situation. And I really believe that they both have to compromise, talk to each other, and learn from each other, because we are wired different.
Yes.
You know, in general.
Yes.
You know, not touching on the third gender element at all, but I think everyone has to be accepted.
Absolutely.
That's all. Everyone can serve Krishna in a certain kind of way, and well, he's the central point. In the spiritual realm, you have the left wing and right wing gopis, right?
Yes.
And you know, like if we take that example of a bird flies with two wings, left and right wings.
Yes.
So in order for a society to flourish and grow and expand, you have two wings, and you have to listen to each other, but it's in the middle where you have to come, you know. The wings are on the extreme, this side and that side, but it's the bird that has to fly, that has to get moving.
I like that.
You know, so you need to hear both, and whether it's Democrats and Republicans or conservatives and liberals, you know.
BJP.
Like most people have those.
Whoever the other one is.
The other Mamata or something, you know.
Yeah. We just do have to listen to each other, and it's nice if you can make a decision that comes in the middle. But decisions do have to be made.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Based on wisdom, based on experience, dialogue. Right? So husband and wife have to listen to each other, and then you come to a good conclusion, you know.
Thank you.
It's all about going one way, then you're headed for a disaster.
Yeah, if not already, we're going that way. Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. I think we can move on to our next segment of our show. I thought we could get not segment. Sorry, we have some
like 10 questions.
We had some personal questions. We thought we'd hot fire to you on your personal life, and then we have a bet. I think I told Maharaj about this before, and let's see what the result of that's gonna be. So we'll fire up some quick questions for you. And we'll change up the pace a little bit from our deep questions to something a little bit more light, all right? And then we can go back to deeper form. So just some general questions about your life, Maharaj. Let's see here. What is your favorite snack? I really wanted to ask that.
My favorite snack?
You have like an opportunity to speak to us.
Yeah.
We're going to change it up. We're going to get through all of it.
Sure.
Let's presume it's offered, okay? I do like roasted or fried cashews.
Really?
With a little black salt in it.
Really?
Yeah.
See, the man knows, like how Prabhupada always said, like he always loved kachoris, you know? We get to learn a little bit more of the personage, you know? That's wonderful.
See everywhere he goes now.
The cashews, man? Can I give you some cashews?
Yeah, when you're a sannyasi, you're like, what would you like? I said, well, I like asparagus. That I can take every day.
Really? Is that your go-to green?
Yeah, but if it's got to be done the right way. You boil it about 3 minutes.
Ooh.
Take it out, put a little olive oil on, a little salt and pepper. Wow.
Done. Love asparagus. What do you say to the community of people out there that can't stand asparagus? What say you to them?
You don't know what you're missing.
Yeah. There you go. You heard it here, folks. You don't know what you're missing. Put it on a t-shirt. All right. Our next question here is, before you were a Hare Krishna, what kind of music did you listen to?
All kinds. I went through a range, you know. Of course, I was listening to pop music. And in the 60s, it was quite innocent and sweet. And there was a lot of good stuff coming out. There was a lot of harmonization of music. And even the crooner music, to some extent, I liked it. It was kind of dreamy. But you could catch every word, you know? Yes. When it comes to heavy metal music, mind you, I didn't mind Steppenwolf. I liked some of their stuff. They were one of the original, you know, heavy metalists, you know?
Okay.
But I did like their stuff. And... you know, the crooners were okay, but it was the protest songs from the folk music that was also quite riveting because their lyrics what captured you.
Deep, yes.
Is she in that category? No, she's not in that category.
She's not in folk?
Oh no, I wouldn't put her in that category.
No?
You know.
Okay.
Heavy, you know, some rock and blues and this and that, you know. Her voice I never cared for so much, but the musical compositions that her band members came up with, pretty astounding, you know. And of course I was Canadian, so, you know, Joni Mitchell, her music, the poetry. Didn't care for her voice, and loved her music, her lyrics, right? And then there was Gordon Light, was also a Canadian guy. He did something unique. You got to catch his stuff. It's ballads. He was writing stories about like history. You know,
I like that. So
and love songs as well, you know. But it was a unique time, you know. And you know, I guess the Bee Gees was coming out. They harmonized, beautiful song, good stuff, you know.
Well, yeah.
They leave everything else in the dust, like a lot of the popular stuff today. You know?
Yes.
But I like funk, and I do like, you know, a variety. I'm, you know, let's say.
You like all the subjis
I
on
like
the
everything. I like everything. Country western, yeah, some of the old stuff is great, you know, but when country western mixes with rock, it's like, oh my God, oh please,
stop,
give me a break, you know. You know, so then I started to listen to Western classical. That went to Eastern classical, and listened to Miles Davis, somewhere in the middle there, and then it came to kirtan after that, you know.
Wonder, you got a really rich musical background, Maharaj. That's amazing. I'm gonna literally rewatch this later and try and like go through all these names and see like what, like some musical history.
Something that's real. I loved the soul music. I loved it, and I mean, to walk to, because I'm a walker. You know, like I feel good.
know that.
Good. Da-na-na-na-na.
Okay, stop. And,
Yes.
so I like the range a lot, and kirtan's really kind of special. It's from another realm, and when it's done seriously, and not so much for self-attention, but more like a true offering to the Lord, then I think you've...
It's the best. Creme de la
it's the
creme.
best.
Thank you, Maharaj. Our next question we've got here for you is, was it a difficult decision when you decided to take the vow of sannyas?
No, it wasn't difficult at all, because I was a brahmachari before, and I never had a relationship seriously with anybody. I just felt deep in my heart, I've done this before. I don't need it now.
Really?
Yeah, I don't need it. It's a little bit of the Catholic upbringing, and that sat well with me, the celibacy thing. And so I just never got involved.
Do you feel
I
that...
tried, because again, that love, you want to be accepted, but it just wasn't working out. So when I met devotees and they were talking about being like a brahmachari, and I thought, oh, that works, that
So
works.
you just fell naturally into brahmacharya and then...
Yes, that's right. And from there to sannyas, yeah.
That's one. Do you felt you always had this from what I hear, you've always been very contemplative, especially on higher vibrations. Do you feel like that the sannyas conversation happened later, or was it something you always felt was part of your natural zone?
Well, I always felt that when I was looking at myself as a young adolescent, I'll probably end up being single, living somewhere in a big city, having a bunch of friends, and doing something with an artistic outlet, and but not getting too implicated in things. I wanted a simple life. That's what I want.
That's one.
Because I was looking around and saying, oh my God, she's with her and she's with him, and just, there's all these breakup and heartache and heartbreak. I said, I don't think I want that.
Yeah.
And especially if there's children involved. And I always loved children.
Yes.
I didn't want to see any child to be, traumatized.
Yes. Because they are the future.
And it's okay. I mean, mom and dad, they fight. It doesn't mean that a kid can't see that. But the kid has to see that they learn how to compromise.
Yes.
And they come to an agreement somewhere.
It's difficult work parenting, Grihastha ashram.
Oh, it
very
is.
difficult.
Especially now.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very difficult because a child is pulled so many which ways. Because, whatever you see in the world of propaganda, it's directed towards young kids, and they have their heavy demands. I have to have this kind of shoes, this kind of shirt, has to have this brand name of this and that, and it just goes, there's no end to the demands,
What you need is go to your room.
Well, what I really liked about the way our parents raised, especially my dad, he'd take us out to the beach, he'd take us out to the nature trails, we might go fishing, this and that. He'd take us on the ice, spin us around on the ice. The lake would be frozen, just, all that kind of stuff. And we go toboggan. It was a good life, And he taught us how to get summer jobs and how to open up a bank account and he'd sit me down and read about the birds and the bees and just kind of prepare me for life.
That's wonderful. Looks like you have a very strong connection with your father.
It wasn't that close.
Okay.
But he did what he felt he had to do as a dad,
To kind
whether
of
it was
set
this
you up.
closeness or not. And I get up in the morning at 5:30 and milk the family cow.
Ooh.
And that was just what you had to do in the farm.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's very rich heritage.
Whatever the Catholic is.
Come on,
I probably was a little bit of a TV addict, especially a sucker for old movies, and that's how I got a little bit involved in the dramatical side of things. That was also very natural for me.
Yes.
The artistic outlet.
Did you have a favorite show growing up?
Show? Not that comes to mind, but there were certain films that I liked.
Or a favorite movie then?
Well, my favorite all time is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh my God! Yes.
Great
Yes.
book, great movie.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also like The King's Speech.
Okay.
That's a more recent one from.
The King's Speech, the movie.
Yeah.
Black and white. No.
No. It's about King George.
Mhm.
I guess.
Oh, that King's
The father
Speech.
of
yes.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
And he had a stuttering
And he had
issue.
the stutter.
Yeah, and no blood, no guts, just totally, say inspirational. Someone had overcome their weakness
That
through a
was
little bit of
wonderful.
training.
Yeah.
So
That-
well acted.
That
so
was
well done.
that was a very good movie.
Yeah.
Wow. Very inspiring.
Personally, I like historical things. Things that really did happen, that were
Yes.
recorded, and
Bit of
The
a
Brit- the
learning
Brits
vibe
do a
to
good
it.
job
yes.
at that,
Yes. With the
And they-
costumes and the accents and
the Americans do a real good job. Trying to create the flavor of the past, and they do such a good job at that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of the past, that's a perfect segue into my next question, Maharaj. If you could relive a full 24 hours day of your past, what would it be?
Just what's happening now.
Mean
Whatever,
we have today again? You would do today again?
Yeah, why not?
Not bad. Yeah.
The present is where you have to be at. This is like when I was finishing my first walk across Canada. It was 1996, and somebody from the CBC came. That was in Halifax. I started on the west coast in Canada, finished on the east coast. And so a young woman from the CBC. That's a big catch, like Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Very respected kind of broadcast. So she asked me a bunch of questions. When did you start the walk? And now that, how many pairs of shoes does it take? And all those.
How many pairs of shoes does it take?
It takes about 4 pairs of shoes. To go
Okay.
through. Because it's like 8,000 kilometers, right?
Wow.
And so then at the end she said, now that you're almost finished the walk, what's the most amazing thing that happened during the course of the walk? And when she asked that, I wasn't sure. God, it kind of stunned me. I froze. And then it came to my mind, Krishna, please help me give an answer, because she's recording me. She had a tape recorder right there. Said, well, then it came to my mind, the most amazing thing is that you are standing there in front of me. You're asking me this question, and I'm trying to answer the question. That's the most amazing thing that's happened on this walk. And she said, I understand what you're saying. Being very much in the present, living for the moment. So to me, that's also, we were talking earlier on about the triguna, the 3 modes of material nature. Be present now. Look at your details now. Because whatever was in the past, you can't really alter it. You can't change it. Chanakipana talks about that, right? And but whatever you do now is going to impact your future. So don't spend too much time in the past. That is like tamas.
Really?
Don't spend too much time in the future. That's too futuristic. You're moving too fast. But work with what you have now. Live in the present. Because that will determine, that will be the blueprint for the future, what you do now. And if you move along through life very cautiously, being very attentive to what's around you, being very cognitive, I have to think about what's best for Krishna, what's best for Srila Prabhupada, what's best for the world, then your future will be determined, and it will be a bright one.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well said. Thank you. Okay. Shall we? Do you have any questions you want to ask, Marge?
No, I want you to ask your question with the bet.
Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. And I think we're kind of good for time too, and then we can get into projects. Okay, Raj. We had a bet. And we have drawn our slots on this one. So the question is, what's your favorite color?
Well, what a tough question. When I grew up, I always liked shades of green.
How did I know this was gonna happen? Okay.
And I like yellow.
Those are the exact 2 colors we bet on.
Yeah, you picked yellow.
Yellow and green. Oh.
The rickshaw thing that that I came in today. It had the combination of green and yellow. I thought, yeah, I feel comfortable.
Oh, wow. Wow, so we're saved by the bell. So the loser had to do a dare inspired by any one of your choice. So I guess we were saved from the noose. We picked the right color. She almost said blue. I almost said purple. I was on purple for a bit. I was like, I feel Mar's a yellow kind of guy.
Yeah, everyone thinks blue because of Krishna. And I thought, well, blue and yellow, and radharani is yellow, green, nature. Okay, green. You know?
Now, the real question is, how do you feel about saffron?
It's a very welcoming color. I get lots of compliments from
it.
People say, I love your color. They come out of the blue and they just, I just love it. Yeah, especially women, they have something to say about that. You know? It's very welcoming, and it's, I say it's very earthy. And it's cheerful. There's nothing aggressive about it.
Peaceful.
Yeah, it's calming.
Yes.
There's shanti in the color.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marge. Do you want to ask your question on projects before we move on to final segment? I think we're a little bit on time now.
So I did see that your short film came out about 5 days ago.
Oh, okay.
And
was lovely.
I did give it a watch.
That was really nice.
It was very interesting. I liked it. I was curious about, because you can see, I'll link it below. So there's kind of a modern setting, but you still kept, the traditional names from the Mahabharat. It's about the Mahabharat, basically, a segment from the Mahabharat. You didn't change like Duryodhana to like Dustin or something. They're still kind of like an old style of speaking as well. I was wondering what was your inspiration with keeping that modern, or doing the modern with the twist?
Well, for instance, Romeo and Juliet was done, I think it was Malibu Beach or something like that.
Yeah.
They kept to the script, and but it was in a modern day setting.
Yes.
And because Leonardo DiCaprio and whoever else was in there, were in it, it became acceptable, because it's a love story. It's a theme that everybody relates to. And in this thing, which we did call The Embassy, it's a short film, which did get some awards and some attention. I just took that as a liberty to honor the playwright. We're talking about Bhasa, B-H-A-S-A, hardly known to most of us. And he wrote 13 plays based on the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, short plays. Really? So we did this in his honor. And because he did it in Sanskrit, so the plays would have been delivered that way. But, for the, let's say, edification of our today's society, let's use English. And so the translators who have worked on this have taken kind of an Elizabethan type of English, right? And so I thought, let's stick to it. Let's bring the old, the new together, and just have a study of the characters, the two, the clash of the two, the sort of mental game they go at. And there's like a subtle arm wrestle between the two. And there's no aggression in it in terms of, using violence or anything like that. It's just kind of like a study of where two people are at. And in this case, Krishna was just looking for justness, fairness, and Duryodhana was a stickler in the mud. And he refused. He was just, let's say, Vedic badass person.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. I was quite...
and we had original music to it, and I was very pleased with the actors, And Dhruva Das, he's from Calgary, he's a Canadian boy. And the other one is an African-Canadian chap from Montreal. So I think they did a good job,
Super good.
Yeah, and, because of the details in it, not everyone will understand it. You'll have to have a little background in it, considering the names and the events that are referred to in the dialogue. But yeah, it was just an experiment. Yeah. See where it would go.
It was really nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any other such projects like that in the pipeline?
Not really. Just anything that we've been doing on the stage. We're hoping that maybe we can film it make it available. I know a lot of families, people with children, they say, I love my kids are watching your plays and they're learning all the stories from your plays, the stories of the Bhagavatam and so on like that. And they're repeating the words.
Yeah. Poison myself! Please go to sleep.
Yeah, so that's nothing down the pipeline, but because during COVID we were forced to, we were restricted. We couldn't have lots of people around us, and so we kept down the cast members and everything like that. And music was done by some outstanding artists. They were overseas, and we had some good camera people in there, and it was just a kind of nice project. And unfortunately, most of the cast got sick from COVID after.
No. Oh no!
Just too close to each other.
Oh no!
But it was a great exercise.
Worth it.
It was a great experience. I think Krishna wanted to happen. And I just want to give a little attention to Bas, whom I respect very much. And we're talking about somebody who lived about 2,000 years ago in South India.
Oh wow!
And so we did this in his honor.
Wonderful! I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah, and His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who passed away, of course, sometimes back in 25 years ago or so, he studied in the theater arts command, and he makes reference to Bas, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
learn something new.
But I'd like to see the devotees in the Hare Krishna movement give some attention to the arts, and that we can embrace Prabhupada's request to implement cultural conquest, you know.
Yes.
To win people's hearts through
cultural
presentation. I mean, where you look at a lot of the stuff that's going on now, it's become so decadent and degraded, and we've lost class.
Yes.
Right? We've lost class, and it's from class to kind of trash, if I might say.
Yeah.
You know, to certain styles of music that don't have a variation, that don't have a range, that are just basically quite flat and
it's just noise.
Yeah,
pretty noise.
Yeah, and themes and topics that are just you know, representing the dark side of life. You know,
Yeah.
I think people need hope.
Yes.
It's something that's kind of uplifting,
Purifying.
but there's resolve at the end. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we'd like to see happen.
Thank you.
And that is like what drama and theater is. There's always, there's the climax, and then something happens at the end to resolve the whole thing. That's kind of what's beautiful about, I think, drama and theater.
Right.
It's that win you get as the audience.
There's satisfaction, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're trying to make the villain into the, what is it, like the whole
hero.
Disney's doing the thing, like the villain's the hero now. They're showing like...
That's been going on for decades.
Yes. But it's kind of like, can we let the heroes be the heroes and let the villains be the villains?
What are you talking about?
Like how they make like, they're kind of bringing back all the Disney... like Maleficent and... what is it, Cruella de Vil. They want to make them into the poor victims, you know, for the story.
Yeah.
And then they want to make the heroes as actually the underdogs, perpetrators of violence and all that, and flip the script. It's like, can we just have the heroes save the day, and then I can go to sleep with a smile on my face, you know? Like,
Things are getting confused.
Sometimes it's interesting to see things from the bad guy's perspective, though.
yes.
When we were doing the mahabharat here a few years ago, I did, just for fun, like I did a little scene where Duryodhana is explaining like why he hates the Pandavas so much, and he's like, Bhima used to pick on me when I was a kid, and he would pick me up and twirl me around and do this and that, and everyone kind of felt sorry for him in that moment. They're like, wait a minute, why am I feeling sorry for Duryodhana? You know? And it's good to kind of play with people's
A little bit.
A little bit.
bit.
And then we get back to him being the bad guy. you
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe he was psychologically tortured.
know? Yeah.
Maybe.
By me.
Yeah. Can't stand. Arjuna's always number one. Damn it. Like,
How did you feel like there was a difference? Like, what was, if any, difference between what you did with the film and the theater? Like, did you feel like do you prefer the theater compared to doing a film?
I love the spontaneous reaction that comes from the audience.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas film is like you do take, retake. Then it goes to the editing room. You're not sure what happens when you put it out there.
Right.
You know, so it's spontaneous reaction it's really something.
That live connection, that
Yes.
taste in the air.
Yeah. That interaction, I think that's Shakespeare really thrived on that. You know, just seeing people and being enthralled by what they saw on the stage.
Yeah.
The raw talent right there.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Or just like I noticed when you did the drama for Smiths, and it was just like there was interaction between what was happening on the stage, what was happening in the audience. It was so vibrant, you could feel it, like Krishna, they open the curtain for Krishna, and everyone's like, wow, I love that. Even my daughter, every time we go to the drama, it's Krishna, he's so beautiful! It's like, every time, I'm like, okay, it's the same Krishna you can see. Or like when Sureshwar Prabhu is like, oh, will you stop it already? And everyone's like, finally!
Yes.
You get that, everyone's like engaged so much in the theater,
And that wink at the end. I loved that. That was my favorite part of the whole thing. I love
the witness scope all you're making reference to.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Yes. Well, we just continue to produce, and that's what we like to do. And I'm looking to, slow down a little bit on the administrative level and
really
pick up a little bit more on the other
on the creative.
Creative and expansion programs.
So what do you see for the future of what you do?
When you're trying to present something of a productive nature and something that's going to be, let's say, of benefit to the society at large, you definitely need the other components to put it out there. So you need the promoters and administrators or managers, right? And then the third group is sponsors, producers. So that's where we have been lacking, even though we made some attempts at, doing art hub type ventures. You need all those components to make it work, I might be missing something, but you definitely need people who are behind it on a financial level for a budget, and then you need people who are going to promote it and basically put it out there, put it out on the stage or on the screen. You need all those components to make it happen.
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
Thank you, Maharaj. We thank you very much.
Is Vande Art still, is that you?
That was an attempt made to be like a hub, a place where people can, you can look up what we've got going on, who's available, who's who, and what you can produce. So it's a little bit like what do I call it? A library or something, like a catalog of people whom you could go to if you're looking for some artists, trying to form a band, or you're looking for a dancer. That's really what was kind of meant to be.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So the main people we had on board were producers, and we just couldn't give enough time to it. So it's not actually functioning at the moment. Yeah, but the idea is still alive.
Right.
The concept is alive.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for everything that you do. We're a little bit on time now. We've actually got to wrap up, but I thought if we could finalize one last question for you. We always have a section. How are we? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Our last question here for the day is we always leave aside a little section for sage advice. All right? Just so that people who are out there who watch the episode may have something they can take away with them, especially if they want something to be spoken about that actually affects their own lives, their own... Ooh, there I go again. Blasting on the mic. So we had a question from our audience, and we thought maybe you'd do the honors of sharing some of that wonderful wisdom that you always have with you.
Okay. Well, what I would say, I think it's important to embrace the 3 S's, and that is sadhana, shastra, and sangha.
Okay.
Okay, so the sadhana means, people do workout, and that's fine, but you got to work in too. You got to work on your inner development, address the demons, try to, just deal with them. Say, I need less of you. I need to hear less of you. And when it comes to the Shastra, that means become familiar with the words of wisdom from the sages that have composed the scriptures. Right? And then finally, the Sangha means stay in good company. Anything that brings you down, try to reduce it. Try to reduce that person in a nice way possible.
Cancel them.
Diplomatically. And just spend time with people that inspire you. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think that's actually a perfect answer, because we did have a question, and I think that would have been the answer to it.
What is it?
What do you think?
Well, the question the person
I think I
asked
have it.
was...
I think I have it
You
here.
have it?
Oh no, maybe.
So this person asked, why can't I focus during meditation? I'm always being dragged off in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think that how you construct your day determines a lot about where your mind is going to be, right? So if you create a beautiful atmosphere where you're going to, especially in the morning, when you do that kind of meditation, you start off fresh, early, when the beautiful breezes hit you, and before the sun comes up. It involves time management. So it is a management issue, okay? So that's one. Shastra, get familiar with the stories, and the wisdom that comes out from Krishna's mouth, as in Bhagavad Gita, and subject yourself to that. Some every day, a dose of it. And then finally, the company you keep is really important. And some of your day has to be without company. Just go out there, walk through the trees.
Be on your own.
Be on your own.
Commune with nature, Krishna.
Yeah. That's a good thing to do in the morning, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Is there such a thing as a hopeless case? I sometimes feel like that.
Hopeless case. Yeah, we are all hopeless cases because it's Kali Yuga. But you look at...
I might be a really hopeless case.
where you just have to, think positive and feel that there's some hope, because Krishna states in the Gita, in addressing the lust and the anger and the greed, many, many people have become purified in the past by knowledge of me. So Krishna is saying in numbers, telling us in numbers that others have been successful. So why don't you be successful?
Okay, I take that with inspiration. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Maharaj. And I guess we'd like to thank everyone for watching this episode, a very special episode of the Dham Good podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure and honor and privilege to have you, Maharaj, here on our show to give us some of that wonderful wisdom. We love every second of it. Might get you for a round two sometime, who knows?
Okay.
But
I would like to say too that you can catch on the website The Embassy, which is that recent film that came out,
yes,
and other productions that we've done. And you can look out for The Saffron Path, which you can get on Amazon.
Okay.
Would you say it's an autobiography of your whole life, or is it just the walking?
No, it has more to do with the walking experiences, yeah. But it's good. People say it's a light read. It's inspirational.
I will link everything below.
Absolutely, information for everyone.
Please check out the links below to find out how you can support us and how you can support Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching our show. We always mess the sign up.
So you can make sure to watch us here on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Be good to each other and be good to yourselves.
And thank you for being damn good.
Here it is, this week's Harinam.
Haribol, thank you so much.